I'm James Priestner from Rare Americans, and we're chatting with Dusty Oregon.
Hello, James. Thanks for coming on the show this week
No worries. Thanks for having me.
from beautiful Vancouver, I hear.
Yeah, we got the sunshine is starting to poke its little head out, which is great because we typically get a lot of rain here on the West Coast. So
Well, from the new standpoint across Canada, everyone thinks you guys just have perfect weather all the time. So it's nice to hear some, real input on that.
totally. Well, I grew
Vancouver.
up in Edmonton, so I was around the -30 winters. So I'm
Oh,
fully aware of Canadian winters my whole life. So
yeah, that stuff's no fun. How long ago did you make the switch to Vancouver?
about maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. I've been here a while. It's home.
Okay, and that's where Rare Americans, the band that you are, I guess, the leader of, is based out of.
Correct. Yeah.
And yeah, kind of just give us an for people who don't know. I know Rare Americans. It's you guys kind of describe yourselves as like a collective. How many members are there? How's the band kind of function?
There is, well, it essentially starts, my brother and I are the ones who started this project. So he's 11 years my senior. He lives in Edmonton. I live here, obviously. He doesn't play instruments or anything at all, but he's a great songwriter. So we took a trip to the Caribbean together maybe three and a half years ago now, and I was in a different band at the time. I was going to audio engineering school as well. And it was our first ever kind of bro kind of trip like that. So we were going for a while, 10 days. So I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do for this amount of
Yeah.
time? So I was like, oh, I'll bring my guitar. And I said, hey, let's try to write a song or two. And Jared's a pretty funny guy. He's a big thinker. He's like, write a song. He's like, let's fucking write an album. And
That's awesome.
I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. And sure enough, like literally, we probably spent like, I don't think we did anything else. We went into the ocean a couple times, and literally we just like caught fire, and we wrote like 12 or 15 songs in 10
Wow.
days, and that kind of became the first record. And I was playing in a different band at the time with our guitarist Lubo,
Hmm.
and this style of music was a little bit different. The songs that we had written in the Caribbean, they were just had a different vibe to them, different influence. So we figured let's start this totally new from scratch. And I really love Lubo, kind of everything about him. He's my best friend, and also just a very talented kind of mad scientist type guitarist. And I asked him to be a part of this project, and so he has been since day one. And then we've had a few kind of different members, since then. But I would say the core of the team now is the three of us plus our drummer named Duran, who also does a lot of our social media and handles kind of a lot of our web stuff. And then another kind of multi-instrumentalist who's also a Slovakian, actually, named Jan. And yeah, he does all sorts of stuff too. We're very DIY operation, and our band is very much, I guess, also a small business. So as much as we are all creators when it comes to music, we're also all we wear our hats, I'd say, on when we put on kind of the business side.
Yeah. And well, actually, out of curiosity, what type of my first question would be, what kind of I know Rare Americans has this wonderful blend of sound where it's you got like ska, gypsy folk, rock, a little bit of hip hop in there too. But what were your origins before that with the other band that you were playing with?
The other band was definitely more less punk. It was more, I would say, on the groovier kind of vibier kind of side. I would say it was much more in line with like Cage the Elephant or
Okay.
Monkeys. I always really I've loved hip hop since I was a kid, and I also loved like Modest Mouse.
Hmm.
Was probably my favorite band. And Arctic Monkeys have always loved Tegan and Sarah. So I really liked kind of that alt-ish kind of vibe mixed with kind of the hip hop. That was kind of always the genres that pulled me in. And then my older brothers were they were punk rockers to their core. I
Right.
think when they were growing up, music was a lot different than now. Now people will have 10 different genres on one playlist. And when they were growing up, it was different. If you were a punk rocker, you were a punk rocker to your core, and those are the life values you kind of lived by. And it wasn't, I don't think, quite as common to listen to punk and then listen to rap and then listen to rock or country or whatever. You were dyed in the wool, kind of a punk rocker. And now it's different. We all like all sorts of genres. So I think with our band, it's exactly that. It's an amalgamation of different influences.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's a lot of fun to listen to, especially, on, you guys have 2 albums now. Your most recent one, Rare Americans 2, just came out on March 5th. And speaking of, in terms of, putting on different hats and doing things as like a business sort of thing, I understand that Rare Americans actually, I'm not sure if you guys had signed or with a major label at one point, but you had a deal with I think Atlantic Records, but you guys decided to make the switch to independent. What kind of what was the thought process for that?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. We'd released 3 animated videos in early 2019, and one of those did really well, which is called Brittle Bones Nikki. And then at that point, we had lots of major label interest. We had lots of different labels contact us, and one of them was a label called APG, who was kind of a sister label to Atlantic. They're kind of part of the same office.
Mm-hmm.
And they just had a cool team. They weren't what you kind of, I guess, expected out of, when you think major label, you just think, I don't know what painting comes to other people's minds, but I think of LA, and I think of cooler than cool, and I think of like, leather jackets and just like, so, like suave kind of thing. And
all the records on the wall.
yeah, these guys were totally different. They were more like a tech team.
Okay.
They were all very down to earth, and we kind of vibed with that. So they flew us out to LA, and we sat with their whole team, and their track record was insane. They just had some of the biggest artists in the world, and have been doing it for a long time, very successfully. We had always kind of planned to keep this DIY. We come from a business background, our family. So business is pretty, kind of in our blood. So we always planned on treating this project like that, but they had a really good pitch, and we felt a good vibe with them. So ultimately, we ended up signing a major label deal there. And then as we got going, we just realized it's just not really what we wanted to do. I think we learned really quickly that it's very much the major label industry is a hits-based business, and it's, if it takes 5 years to get one hit for an artist, that's no problem. I think a lot of major labels are happy to kind of play that game, and they're looking for the gigantic payoffs from a huge hit that's going to take an artist from here to here really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And our style was different. I'd say we're a very prolific band. We write songs like crazy. We love the craft of songwriting. It's really fun for us. And we wanted to release a high volume of material and do it very consistently, and not really put all our eggs in one basket on one song. I don't think we've ever really felt like we, had one song that this is the one, this is the single, this is the, it was more, we felt our songs, the quality difference wasn't here to here. It was all somewhere in here, not huge spikes and huge lows. And so, yeah, we wanted to release just a ton of material, and we had some pretty wild plans, which we still do with the animation and doing kind of small short films, and doing like trios of little mixtapes that all told one ultimately big story. We just had a lot of kind of crazy ideas, and I think that was just not what the major label was interested in doing. And I think that we pretty quickly that we didn't have the freedom, I guess, that we wanted to. So ultimately, we decided we didn't really want to sit around for 3-4 years kind of waiting on one song. So we essentially just bought ourselves out of our deal and gave our advance back. And we were fortunate to be able to get out, without too much of a penalty. So
yeah, you always hear horror stories from the industry of my first thought is I'm sure you're familiar if you're into punk music, Victory Records. I know you always hear all these horror stories from bands like Streetlight Manifesto and stuff that had such a difficult time detaching from major labels and stuff and record label deals. But it's great to see that, that's not always, it's not the industry standard
Well,
necessarily.
I
So,
think for us, we did it so early. Like we made the decision after 6 months. So,
okay.
if we would have waited a year and they would have put $500,000 into a record for us, and, they would have really, really, put actual dough behind the band in terms of getting us out there, then I think that their stake in the
Yeah.
game is a lot higher, and then it's a lot more difficult to get out. But we had only released 4 or 5 songs or whatever under them. So the investment was so minimal that they didn't really have a lot of skin in the game at that point, which I think made it easier for us to get out.
Yeah, good for both parties, really. That's awesome. And one of the nice things about your songwriting style is that it is so heavily oriented in storytelling. And has that always been kind of from the get go, like a point that you guys want to get through? Like you want to tell stories with your music? Has that always been number one for you guys?
You know what? I think it was like it was by happenstance almost. I think that naturally we were just writing songs that had somewhat of a narrative, uh, you know, drive to them. I think that we were often kind of championing the voice of the underdog or people that didn't always get kind of a voice in the world, and whether those were people that we knew or that we were influenced by, or stories we read, or and sometimes just totally made up characters. They just often followed a person or a situation and something that was rooted in some truth. And so naturally, I think storytelling was just something we were doing naturally, and we didn't go into it being like, hey, we're going to be the storytelling band. But then I also think that it's just double whammy as soon as we introduce the animated element to it, which almost always follows. They're not abstract videos; they're very much narrative based videos. So I think when you couple the song with the animated video, it's like, bam, okay, now we're making like little mini movies.
Yeah. Well, especially you talked about it before, the Brittle Bones Nikki story, which is nice book ending on the album. And that one's been really well received in terms of both story, song, and music video narrative. And I know I think in a press release you'd mentioned that it's actually kind of loosely based on a real life person.
Well, I would say extremely loose.
Extremely loosely, yeah.
That was one where I don't know. I let my mind really just take off. I was going on a walk to meet my parents. Actually, were visiting Vancouver, and they were about a 20-minute walk away. So I was on my way to meet them, and I saw this guy outside of an old man outside of like an assisted living complex. You could tell he was kind of toward the end of his life. He had the full oxygen kind of tank, and he was also smoking a cigarette and had a disheveled kind of beard. And he just, to me, just looked like a guy who had seriously lived a lot of life and had been through some shit. And so for some reason, that guy, I just started wondering, like, what could this guy's life have been? And I kind of took that and made up his life story in my head, literally on the walk. And I wrote the whole song pretty much on the walk. And
That's awesome.
well, I mean, the lyric, the story, obviously, the song was way different. That I'll take that back to the guys and the team, and that's where we really hone in on the music and produce the song. But yeah, the story came just from something as simple as that.
That's awesome. And now it has almost like a fandom world around your animated songs. Place is called Crooked City, right? Like this universe that you guys have kind of thought up.
Yeah, I'd say it's funny. We almost shot the bullet on that one too quick, because it's really much a work in progress. It's I don't think I think we underestimated how hard it is to create a universe.
Yeah.
So we've been actually working on a TV series as well that's literally just a narrative based show that will have a large musical component to it. But the idea is Crooked City, and it takes place in this in this universe. So we've been writing all sorts of scripts and editing them and whipping out the scenes and moving one here to try to make everything work and connect. And then so that will come eventually, 100%. But as juniors, I would say in the film world, we've just learned how arduous a task it is to create something that makes sense, has an interesting plot, that's going to keep people engaged, that has action and depth. That's one thing I think with Rare Americans we always try to do is have songs and stories with depth to them. We've never tried to be singing about partying and getting drunk at the club. That's just not really who we are. It's not our interests. So yeah, we've always tried to do things that have a lot of meaning to them. And now obviously making that into a much bigger thing is just takes a lot of heads.
Yeah, unfortunately, you guys are working with a really good team in Toronto, Solus Studios, who, if anyone recognizes the name, they also worked with Pop on a couple, or at least one or two music videos with them too. But
And Jessie Reyes as well. They
and
did
Jesse Reyes, okay.
yeah, her Intruders video, which was up for a Juno this year. That was also Solus.
Oh, right on. And you guys have won a Juno, right? Rare Americans?
We were
Were
essentially,
nominated?
I like to say we won a Juno. We were like an assist on a Juno. It was our song that we co-produced, which was Brittle Bones Nikki, and then the other producer of that song, Ben, won for producer of the year.
Okay, so kind of by proxy. That's awesome. Either way, it's still an award-worthy song. So, and out of this, I hope people after this interview will go check out your extensive music video selection because, last night I was going through a whole bunch of them, and there's some really cool. Even if the music's not for you guys, like there's some really cool stories and visuals, especially for me, like the video for Gas Mask, the one with the boxer.
Yep.
That was great. And Hullabaloo, am I saying that right? Yeah. That one in particular was really cool. Very Dr.
It was so funny. I was looking at the Globe and Mail the other day, and I saw on the front page of the Globe and Mail in the byline or whatever, he used the word hullabaloo, and I was like, "Wow, I've never seen this ever used before." And there you go. It's made its way to the Globe and Mail.
Yeah, there must be some RA fans out there. That's hilarious.
Maybe,
Any favorites from your standpoint?
Songs?
Yeah, or music videos specifically. Anything that you've really enjoyed working on?
Just to kind of take that and just take it to another level. I think like Hullabaloo is a great example of they just created such a cool world out of like a small idea we kind of gave them. Their talent level is super high. They're just three siblings out of Toronto who've had this company for 10 years now. And then on the other side, I would say some early videos we made that I produced. I was running a small production company at the time. Some of the live action videos were really interesting to make, like Balmoral Hotel. People in Vancouver would know it's actually a hotel. It got shut down a few years ago.
Okay.
Back in the day, it was actually like a luxury hotel when East Hastings Street was kind of like the jam in Vancouver. And then obviously, for those familiar, East Hastings is one of the worst streets in North America, probably with drug abuse and mental illness. And the Balmoral Hotel turned into just like an SRO, single resident occupancy, kind of like real assisted living, but it just got run down by drugs and prostitution and just blood on the walls and just as bad as it could possibly get. So that was kind of what the song was inspired by, and we wanted to make it very truthful and feel raw and real. So we actually rented a room at a hotel still open that's next door called the West, which is also an SRO. So we actually found a way to rent a room there for a day, and we filmed the video there. And that was a humbling experience to go into an SRO when the residents, were still in the rooms kind of next door, and they just had never seen a film crew really like this. And it was a really humbling experience, and it really opened your eyes. And so I have I guess a lot of fond memories of learning and just the experience of going through that. So I really like those videos, as well as Moss Park. You're in Toronto, obviously, similar idea. We wrote that song literally about Moss Park, so we felt like the video should be filmed in Moss Park. So I took myself and a camera guy and one other person, and literally just went and talked to people in Moss Park and offered them beers to see if they wanted to be in the video. And people wanted to kind of show their story and show who they were. So it was literally just a montage of people from Moss Park.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to see how instilled the idea of being down to earth and a very community-based band that you guys are. You've got a physical, community in Canada and North America, especially, and now a big online world too. I know you guys. I was reading somewhere that some people from some Comic-Con fans even, dress up as Brittle Bones Nikki from time to
Yeah, that was
time.
crazy. Yeah, we had someone literally do the full get up. And with someone sent us a video of him doing the dance at Comic-Con. It was crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy how sometimes a song just really connects with listeners, and it goes that far, which is really cool.
Totally, yeah.
And out of my own curiosity, as a band that's Canadian based, why did you settle on the name Rare Americans?
Oh man, people ask me this and I never have a good answer for it.
Yeah.
I wish I had like an answer for this question that was like, I think 21 Pilots came from a book or from a chapter that they saw in a book, or it was part of the story. I think Modest Mouse is the same. Ours wasn't really like that. When we decided that we were gonna call this something different, my brother and I exchanged just text messages worth of a list of 10 band names here, another 10 here. And Rare Americans just kind of stuck out. And then we started kind of thinking about it, and it was a little bit of the idea that like being Canadian, you're almost like a proxy American no matter what. Like we almost are kind of the rare Americans. Obviously, we're all in North America, and I feel like we're so influenced by American culture. Everything we do is, for the most part, a lot of it comes from America, whether that's from sports or politics. It just totally floods our culture. It's just such an integral part. And as we're young growing up in Canada, we learn about the American system. And the opposite is not true in America. Canadian headlines are not flooding American newspapers. Our politics is not cracking the, above the fold. It's just not the case. If a lot of Americans, unfortunately, just don't get very educated about Canada, they don't know the province names. They don't know the capital of Canada. It's just something that they're never really taught for the most part in their school system. So I feel like as Canadians, we kind of by default almost are rare Americans,
Yeah, which is it's almost funny in a sense too. Whenever somebody brings that up, it's so funny how disconnected they really are to Canadian, news or history or just any facts really, and it's almost funny at times.
100%, yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned the whole finding stuff from titles and names from books and movies and stuff too, because I get the same question about Dusty Oregon. A lot of people are like, what the hell did you settle on Dusty Oregon from? Like, that's so stupid. But I've explained it a few times. It's from a song, so it's very similar. Like it just something resonates, and then But
something hit you and inspired you from something that you liked, and it for you is perfect, right?
Yeah. I was gonna ask you obviously about your new album, Rare Americans 2. How does that feel now that it's been almost a month kind of out into the world?
You know what? I'm just happy it's out. We recorded this record so long ago. We recorded this in 2019. This is pre major label signing, so
yeah.
We were sitting on this for such a long time. So many of the songs were already available.
Was there a reason why it took a bit of time to get out?
Yeah, they just didn't really want to, they weren't in no hurry to release a record. So the idea was we were going to release like a series of singles, which we kind of did. So they kind of cherry picked what they thought were the best ones of the bunch. And we started with those. That was like Gas Mask, as you mentioned, or Hullabaloo. We made a few videos for that. And then it took us a while to get out of the deal. It took us 4 or 5 months. And then to get up and running as a DIY operation. I just don't think people understand what it means to set yourself up as a record label. There's so much work that goes into it, even to try to report to Billboard sales and to get your shop set up and order your merchandise and just build the infrastructure it takes to be a record label. Just takes a lot of time and effort. So that took us a couple months as well. So just things, pile up one on top of the other. And, we kind of had a year there with the major label. And so this record kind of just sat there. So it was like, you know what, let's just finally get this thing out into the world and kind of move on to the next one. Like our whole third record's already done. Completely done. So the fourth one's almost done too.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we've just been working hard the whole time while this was already in the bag for a long time. So we're just excited that it's out and that we can just move on to the next kind of phase, because I think our band really evolved a lot too during the last year and a half of songwriting and production. So I think the next two records are going to be probably very different than RA2.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. Yeah, because it's RA2 is a very fun mix of everything, and to think that there's even something more different that can be done, that's very exciting to hear through. Because I don't want to spoil anything. I guess you guys haven't announced any dates or anything for RA3.
Yeah, we don't have any dates yet, but we have the full concept, and we're just kind of making the contents right now, in terms of the videos. And yeah, I'm really excited for this record. It's I would say it's more personal. This one's much more personal to me, I would say, than all the other records. It just happened that way. I didn't really plan to go write a bunch of songs that were more about my life, but it just so happens. I think in the artist journey, that's just part of it. And so yeah, this next record I would say is a lot more personal, gets a lot more into my life than kind of macro, which I would say is what a lot of our previous material has been, more looking at the world. I would say this one's much more introspective, and more of a I don't know, a bit more of a hip hop influence to it, more of a instrumentation is a little bit more varied. It's a little less of like a rock record, I would say.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'm very excited. And I was going to ask too, because, RA2 feels very, it is part of this whole, universe that you guys are working on, and it's all narratives, kind of external things. But is there anything on that record that feels very personal to you already, or is it mostly just kind of creative inspiration that's been flowing through you?
On the first or on the second record?
Yeah, on RA2. It's hard to
Yeah,
say.
I feel like a song like Gas Mask was pretty personal to me. That was about, the feeling of like, you feel like you're analyzing yourself and figuring out, what the fuck am I doing? Where am I in my life? Is this what I should be doing? Did I take the wrong turn? Just kind of really self-reflecting and self-analyzing and figuring out, like, am I doing the right thing? And should I be doing this at all? Having that bit of self-doubt and self-reflection. And that happens, I think, in the artist's life. I'm sure with you as well, when anytime you're doing any sort of creative endeavor, you have high highs and you have devastating lows where you're like, fuck man, I put so much effort into this and it just totally fell flat on its face and no one gives a shit about it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing something different? Like, does this make any sense at all? And then you have times where it's like, bam, you land an interview you really want to land, or you have a song that really starts to reflect and take off in people, and it makes everything worth it again. So that song was kind of more about that, and just the belief of, when you get knocked down, kind of you got to get back up again. And I think that I'm someone who's susceptible to that.
Yeah.
And so that song was a little bit more personal. And then we obviously coupled it with the story of kind of a boxer's journey, because I think a boxer goes through a lot of those things too.
Yeah, and I like that reoccurring line of mind your head, mind your head, mind your head
Yeah.
on that.
Actually, that was actually a true story. If you go to, if anybody's been to Europe, often you see signs in Europe for whatever reason. I don't know why, but when you go into a bathroom, oftentimes they're downstairs. So you'll see signs that say "Mind your head." And there was a picture I came across in like a family album when I was like 6, and we went to Europe somewhere, and it was me standing looking at the sign that said "Mind your head." So it was actually, kind of a double entendre. It was the idea of physically fucking mind your head,
Yeah.
and mentally mind your head.
Yeah, that's a great it's a great mantra to kind of slip into your daily routine for sure. And I know you guys toured around Europe a lot for your first album. Hopefully, once COVID releases its tight grip on the world, I guess you guys really want to go back to touring Europe?
I want to tour everywhere.
Yeah.
That was one thing I would say that this band has never really gotten the opportunity to do, because, right when we were starting to kind of get out there and build a little bit of a fan base off the first record, we toured the UK, which was great. That was a really cool experience. And then shortly after that is kind of when the label came calling and we were having those conversations. So, you know, through that year, we weren't touring. We were just kind of figuring out how that relationship looked and what our release plans were. And then we started releasing some stuff, building some momentum, and then COVID hit, and we've been now a year, obviously, like everybody else. So, yeah, hopefully in early 2022, I guess. Uh, I guess two things. One, I've seen so many artists book tours and cancel them, which it's just so much work. And then secondly, we also want to tour when we feel like we have a large enough audience that makes it worthwhile everywhere we go. And so that I would say it's actually been nice being able to release so much material throughout the pandemic, because it's allowed us to really build a lot more of a fan base. And so throughout the rest of this pandemic, we're going to do the same thing and just try to release a lot of material and really just build our audience as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's very good that you guys have not just one, but almost two albums to kind of, hopefully be able to strategize and plan out based on the rest of the world's, situation here, which is good. So hey, even if it's RA4, that's finally the world tour. Better late than never, right? So
yeah, we honestly, like, it's funny when we deal with all sorts of different companies now, whether it's a radio tracking team or a PR team or whatever, and it's just the industry norm is kind of like, okay, you release a single, you should wait 3 months before you release another single. Or sometimes PR companies, if you do a campaign with them, they won't even take you for another campaign unless you have like a 2-month gap in between. And for us, we just don't give a shit about that. Like, it's so much more about our fans. We 100% of the time, all we want is our fans to dig what we're doing. And it seems like they just want more and more. So it's like, we're not going to sit around and try to play the industry game. It just doesn't make any sense to us.
that's awesome. That's actually very refreshing to hear, really, from bands, because there's so many people nowadays, especially with COVID, that are just trying to pick up their pace on releasing music and things like that. But just to hear it organically from artists being like, you know what, we know what we're doing, we trust our fans, we trust ourselves. And yeah, it's just nice to hear, at least from my end of cool. Getting all these PR releases and stuff from artists and labels and whatnot. That's cool. Yeah, because you never really get that that insider monologue,
Yeah,
I guess.
I think you really got to do your thing. Like, so many people are going to tell you what to do, and there's just so many cases of things not working. And when you went to the standard kind of plan, I don't know. To us, it's just like, we've learned twice now that when we start to build a lot of momentum on platforms and then we take a large break in releasing for whatever reason, a lot of times it's been situational, that your fans are going to move on to someone else. Like, there's people putting out content constantly right now, and that's what people crave. And so for us, we just don't want to have these big gaps anymore. So, that's why it's like, okay, the second record just came out. Great. Let's give that its glory for a month or whatever. And we did the live stream show for the second record, which was awesome. And now it's like, hey, we're not going to sit around and milk that for 6 months. Let's move on,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very exciting. Any are you able to say when you're planning on putting more, like, a new single or anything out, or a new video, or
probably around April 15th, I think.
Okay, that's good for people. Mark your calendars, people. April 15th ish. That's exciting. Well, thank you very much, James, for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And yeah, you can check out Rare Americans 2. I just actually put up a review of it not too long ago. If anyone's curious, go check out that. It's a very, very fun album, and definitely check out their YouTube page, because there's so many cool things. There's so many cool videos, and even you guys even did like a little, I don't want to say talk show, but you and your guitarist there, Lubo, you guys did a little question Q&A sort of stuff, and just fun tidbits of information up there.
Yeah, we've tried all sorts of stuff, which we will hopefully continue to do. But we've also learned that YouTube does not reward us for doing shit like that.
Yeah, YouTube's a whole other beast.
It's really funny. Yeah, they really reward channels that have a niche and stick to them. And then if you're like, do something outside of your niche, they're kind of like, that's not what your channel is about. You know, it's like they give you like a whip on the ass or something. So we've had to learn kind of from trial and error of what works and what doesn't work on our channel. So anyway, we're going to continue to try and see, and yeah, it should be an exciting kind of rest of the year. So
the internet is a weird place. Anything last you guys want to plug for your band right now, or?
No, I would say just, you know, it's a fun journey, and now that we're back kind of in full control, we're going to release just a ton of stuff, and I would say that our further releases are going to be more nicely packaged in terms of they're going to have a story to them, and there's going to be more context. They'll be a little bit more connected, I would say, than things that we've done in the past, which is a little bit more fragmented. Now there's going to be a little bit more cohesion, I would say, to the universe. So it's a great time to kind of jump in and be a part of the overall story, I guess.
Right on. And you guys are able to be found at, I think I saw everything is just at Rare Americans.
Yeah, very simple.
Nice and easy.
Totally,
cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you very much, James.
Okay, have a great day. Appreciate it.
Now every morning, coffee park, walking around the city, deals light or dark. I'm straight edge as a punk.